Good afternoon to you. Are you able to hear me? Galaxy Tab A7 Lite. That's what I am getting here. Are you able to hear me? Can you please respond? Hello. Hello. Yeah, I hope that you are able to listen to me and uh, okay. So we'll see how to go about today, and we'll have a quick recap of what we discussed in the previous class. We discussed about imbalance in information flow across various countries in the world. We also discussed a lot about first world, second world, and third world countries. And we discussed about various drawbacks that these countries faced in terms of unequal flow of information, the dominance of Western world over the rest of the world, the nature of the Eastern world, and the way things progressed over a period of time. We also looked into the historical perspective in yesterday's class, and today we will see in the next unit of block 4. Yesterday we discussed unit 9, and we will see now today in block 4, unit 10. So I'll try to share as I discuss with you. I'll try to share this, what you call it as the PowerPoint. Then it will be easy for you to also, okay, let me share this. I hope I'm able to share it. Yeah, yes. So I'll be sharing the PowerPoint. As you see, we will go point by point. I have made about 30 to 32. I hope I have got, yeah, 30 to 32, 30 to 32 slides. And I'll spend about a few minutes on each slide. And our topic of the day today is political ideologies and international communication. Can someone confirm whether they are able to see? Anjay Garu, are you there?
Right.
Are you able to see? Yeah, there. Are you
Yes,
able to
sir.
see my presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm able to
Oh,
see,
very
sir.
good.
Visible,
Thank
sir.
you. So please follow that. And thank you very much. Now that you are able to listen to me, I get some feedback. I'm very happy to proceed with the class. Okay. Thank you very much. So I am now sharing the screen. As you have seen, I made a special PowerPoint for you. The most important point that I have taken from this lesson, from this unit 10 of block 4, and I have taken only the what we call in Telugu Animutyalu of the entire text material, because they matter a lot for you to understand, and from examination point of view also. If you get an essay question of this on this topic, this PowerPoint is sufficient for you to to write an effective essay type answer. I'm talking from examination point of view. But I don't give so much of value to examination point of view as much as I would give in your trying to understand the 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 concept of what we are trying to discuss, the inner meaning of what we discuss, the the benefit of what we discuss, the relevance of what we try to discuss, and we are going to uh, justify our discussion with some latest examples also. So I will be telling you about what is really happening right now on the international scenario. So we will be discussing as we discuss each one. So our first topic, today's topic, is political ideologies and international communication. And as you know, your subject itself is known as global communication. Our entire discussion all throughout the subject is based on this, on the way the communication takes place between countries, more so keeping this present day technological advancement that we are seeing on day-to-day basis. Time to time it is changing. There is a paradigm shift. We are now entering into an era of metaverse. METAVERSE, and 5G. So we are moving at a very, very faster pace, and we don't know what is in store for us in the next maybe 5 years to 10 years. So technologically, there may be a severe paradigm shift, like how we are now slowly, India is also adapting to so many changes technologically. And so the communication between the countries also is undergoing a sea of change, unlike the earlier ways. So we'll try to see how international communication is influenced by the political ideologies of various countries or various parts of the globe, like the Western, like the Eastern, like the non-aligned, like that. So we will see. So what exactly we mean by political ideology? What is that we mean by that? So every ideology, rather every country has an ideology. They have their own set of ideas, keeping in view their own environs. Many things they have their own beliefs, maybe sometimes very stupid beliefs, maybe you may say superstitious beliefs. Some of the countries are in fact made fun of their superstitious beliefs. And India is one such country also where internationally we are, dubbed as the country of elephants and snake charmers, and that we are very superstitious and have all kinds of strange beliefs. Having said that, a political ideology is a set of ideas, beliefs, values, and opinions actually. Why do we have all these things is to tomorrow convince someone that here we have everything in place, we have our own political community, and we will stick to this line, and we will not be changing our ideology. That's what we call it as political ideology. Now we know in our country also we are having, in the name of course, we have a secular ideology. If you take Congress party, if you take BJP party, they are of a different ideology. They may put a different perspective to what for a particular party feels. So every political party or every country has its own political ideology, which may again differ within the country, which may differ between the countries also. These ideas, these beliefs, they have it. So everybody has a copyright of their own beliefs, of their own values and opinions. Western countries have their ideology. They want to force their ideology to other countries. They're asking other countries to imitate their ideology, to follow their ideology. So we are having this taking advantage of the international communication. So we have seen what we mean by the political ideology. And we can see maybe historically, if you take from World War time, propaganda was one of the most important tools the Nazis used, and they called it as Nazism. If Pawan Kalyan comes up with something on his own, they are now calling him as Pavanism. Okay, they're saying as Pavanism as an ideology. So tomorrow somebody will come and they may say it's some ideology based on the individual, based on the caste, based on the religion, based on the community. So the Nazis, propaganda was one of the most important tools, in fact, Nazis used to shape the beliefs and attitudes of the German public. So here communication has come in place. So here we have seen now through posters, through film, through radio, through exhibitions in museums, other media. Okay, the German public were completely asked to, were completely convinced with messages actually for support or for basically the vision of the Germany or the future of Germany was in fact conveyed through what is known as propaganda. So propaganda, as you know, is something which is to spread, whether it is good or right. We are able to trying to convince the entire country or a part of the country through what is known as propaganda. So Nazism is an ideology, and over the year, always remember, nations, every nation has used propaganda to unite its people in wartime. Now, right now, we are seeing the war time between Russia and Ukraine, and we are seeing now what's happening in Russia and what's happening in Ukraine. Yesterday, Putin, banned Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and other things because he feels that false propaganda is going on in his country and that is demoralizing his own army and his own people. He has cut off on the Facebook page to CEO said that he will try his best to global affairs CEO said that he will try his best to see that it is destroyed so that people get right information through social media, for instance. So every nation uses propaganda to unite its people in wartime. We were on war with Pakistan, with China, and the media tries its best to unite our people, set aside our differences. So this is also a part of an ideology because it's essential that during wartime we don't fight ourselves when we are already having an aggressor against us. So please remember, both sides always spread propaganda. During World War, for instance, both sides. So there is a war of publicity, war of propaganda. So you tell one thing and I deny that. Like how we are seeing how Ukraine is saying that 9,000 soldiers died, whereas Russia is propagating that only 498 soldiers died. Ukraine is coming with so many figures. Russia is coming with so many figures. All this is a part of a propaganda or a part of their own, spread of information from their point of view. So we have what you call it as this situation. In this, one of the ideologies, political ideologies, was Nazism, and Nazis use propaganda as a part of spreading the message. So what are we trying to talk is we are talking about how global communication takes place, say between the states, between the countries. How does it take place? So every country is interested in its own supremacy, in its own identity, in its own significance. It prepares the propaganda. Now we have seen how British also does. Right now we are seeing a lot of media information from Western countries and the entire Europe, including the British people, NATO. We are seeing our channels are completely bombarding Republic Channel, India Today, Times Now, Aaj Tak, NDTV. If you see these channels, they are not saying war from ground zero. They're there right on the site and they're giving visuals and they're doing it. So right now there is a media war going on in addition to the real war between Russia and Ukraine. So media war is also one of the, it is a mind game, a psychological warfare of who is one-upmanship, it is called, of who is dominating in spreading information, who is dominating in using the media. So British propaganda was another kind of an ideology, a political ideology. Britishers aimed at that. They always, they aimed at their own audience and the overseas audience. Overseas means the foreign audiences. So traditional forms like newspapers and posters, including the new media and our film, newsreels, radio, all these were used. These tools were used by Britishers to spread their point of view, good or bad. They also want to be a part of this whole propaganda. So they were in fact, they tried to reflect. They produced even movies like The Great Dictator, which tells the ideology of democratic countries opposing the dictatorship. Now, all of you will agree with me. I hope that right now there is a war between dictatorship and democracy. That's what Zelensky is saying. So movies like that one movie they produced, Britishers, The Great Dictator. It was very widely used. It was completely opposing the dictatorship, the great dictator. So you know the great dictator during World War II, the great Adolf Hitler. We know about that. So, but then how do we? So British propaganda helped in creating a movie called Great Dictator to spread the message of the importance of the democracy in all countries. Where they use radio, they use 23 languages to spread their messages. Okay, they wanted to be, their effort proved useful, rather simpler to the occupied countries than to Germany itself. So this is how they had the situation, and we have uh, next aspect of political ideologies and international communication is that of what is known as Cold War. Now all of us know what Cold War is. It's a geographical tension. Right now, there's a geographical war going on between Russia and Ukraine, for instance. But there's a political tension also. The Cold War was a state of geopolitical tension. After World War II, at that time we have Eastern Bloc, the Soviet Union, and its satellite states, and then the Western Bloc, the United States, its NATO allies, and others. Right now, the two people are there in front of each other, but they are right now, in the midst of geopolitical tension. But say there is no physical appearance of any disturbance between these two, Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. But yes, but there is always a tension. So there is a wave going on like this. There's a geopolitical tension. They're using the media. They're playing the mind game. They're playing a psychological warfare. They're trying their best to see that Putin feels the threat of his actions against Ukraine, but at the same time, Putin also is conveying in the same way that he is least bothered about what America does or what NATO does. So right now, in world opinion, is that Putin is emerging in the sense stronger by his aggressive nature, and this Western Bloc is not doing anything, including Zelensky has said that they are not doing what they are supposed to do. NATO is supposed to declare the free sky, the sky as a no-fly zone, but NATO hasn't done that, which Zelensky is very, very sad today, for instance. So there is always a Cold War going on between these two, and in the process, two countries are suffering, terrible suffering and unbearable suffering of losing their people in hundreds and thousands. So this is one thing which you should keep in mind is the physical war is different from the Cold War. Now we also know, for instance, what we meant by that was that, for instance, the USSR earlier, before it split into various countries, it was Marxist-Leninist state, okay, by a communist leader. Okay, he was called as a very true leader. And they also called those top people as Politburo. Politburo is the top political decision-making body. Like Telugu Desam Party also has a Politburo. Yesterday, they had a Politburo meeting. The Politburo decided that MLA should not go to assembly, MLAs and MLCs. But the MLAs and MLCs felt they should go to assembly. They differed from Politburo and they are attending the session from tomorrow. So Politburo is the actual decision-making body. It's like management. And so USSR was there in that. And in the opposite to that is the West, a very strongly democratic capitalist and with totally a free press and independent organization. So there's no governmental interference in communication between the countries, unlike the USSR, where the communication goes through proper channels, through government-run media houses, through completely controlled, censored media bodies. So you have Pravda, you have TASS, which are all government-controlled, information that flows. It's not so in case of West. In case of West, you are giving the good, the bad, and the ugly. Entire information is flowing freely. The press is free. You can attack Biden or you can support Biden. You can attack Trump or you can support Trump. Everything is conveyed to the audience. Everything is received by the audience. And the audience takes the final call. They'll analyze and they will make a final call. And India is also proud of being such a country where we are able to debate ourselves, criticize ourselves. We are able to, in fact, use even unparliamentary language. We are also going even to the extent of defamation cases. So please remember that these two are the major blocks, the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. And then came, obviously, and the other countries felt that it is good to maintain relations with both the sides. They never wanted to side with someone and then, rub the other fellow on the wrong side. Suppose the non-aligned movement came, NAM came, Nehru was a total supporter of NAM because he said he wanted to have a good relationship with both Russia as well as America. He didn't want to have relations with America at the cost of Russia or with Russia at the cost of US. He said, I want both of you. I want the entire good of both the things. I want to have the cake and eat it too. So what happened was that this is how the NAM actually tried its best to neutralize, dilute the intensity of Cold War between the two supreme blocs, the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. So these two superpowers never engaged directly in full-scale armed war. Full-scale war, never. But they were heavily armed in preparation for a possible all-out nuclear world war. The other day we were almost at the edge of a mountain when almost, we were almost in a climax situation when some fire went into that nuclear plant in Ukraine. It's only luck that nothing happened to the plant. Had it been, the whole world is saying that had it been, damaged and the leakage started, the entire Europe would have been very difficult, and including the world also. We all know what happened in Chernobyl. For several years, people have been evacuated from there. Chernobyl is a place, now no one goes there. There is no inhabitation. Why? Because of the leak of the nuclear fuel. So please remember, these two people have been having Cold War. That's why we say it's called Cold War. So always remember a small neutral non-aligned, we said, and then what has happened? Then what has happened was that the two never engaged in otherwise it would have been a nuclear war. Now media politicization, they were used, always what happened. So the two enemies, the two people fought each other through media. They used propaganda to accuse each other, to show to the world, how bad each other is. So there was a complete war effort. So in a very psychological war effect. So information war, info war. So today Russia has channel. If you see RT Russia today, you find a different picture of what is actually the Western media is saying. So we are seeing BBC, we are seeing CNN, we are seeing RT Russia today. Then you will be able to know, if you see these three channels, you will be able to know how media politicization and propaganda techniques were used to, create fear or hope in anyone's mind. For instance, they created hope. Russians created hope that they're going to cease fire, allow the other people to go, run away to their safe zones, but they went back on their word and they started again firing, because of which our 600 students are also getting, trapped very close to about 50 kilometers from the Russian border. They are there right now, and they have already sent messages through social media that they are in trouble, that if there is anything happens to them, it will be the responsibility of the government of India. Now, the government of India is struggling to convince the Russian people, Ukraine people, stop the war, allow the people to run away, allow the people to go away to safe places. So there is a way of actually, trying to do now there. So there was a hope, and the media also said that in America, I mean US and Ukraine agreed with the war, for stopping the war for a while. But again, what happened? The media started saying that Russia went back and started attacking. So we are having this situation, which itself tells us how politicization and how media tries to, create fear, create hope, create anxiety, create anger, trigger anger and emotions. All these things come from what is known as the media. The media also is so international communication. You can see how one can play with your mind more than anything else. Sometimes you feel it better to fight physically than with a mental war. So please remember, Soviet media was always state censored. Everything that comes out of the Soviet media is censored. It is approved by the government. So please remember, but it may tell, no, 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 we are having a lot of international radio stations. Russia claims they have a lot of international radio stations. We are not like that. We are free media only. We don't interfere with anyone. But when you investigate, you find out that most of their international radio stations are located in the Soviet Republic itself. So most of them, if you see that Eastern Bloc, Russia and their supporting countries, for instance, you have what is known as a censored, that is the media which is actually regulated. Information comes only after it. It is not so in case of, in case of the other countries. In case of the Western Bloc, if you take, the information is flowing freely, the information is going around like anything, and then you can see how this, the free flow of information is able to sustain democracy in many of the countries. We are able to, show to the world, yes, because we are democratic, our flow of information is not imbalanced. It is truly flowing. Nobody is putting any hurdles to the flow of information. Now, if you say what exactly we mean by borderless communication and nation state censorship. So today, we are having borders between the nations. You all agree with us. But today it is not so in case of world. So all of you know that we are now changing rapidly. We are now, people are using technology. Social media, for instance, internet has removed the borders. So we don't have any borders now. Electronically, we don't have any borders. Communication wise, we don't have any borders. Internet has established that kind of a thing known as now commerce wise, even trade also, we don't have any borders. We have e-commerce. I want anything from America, I can get it through Amazon in Hyderabad. Amazon India is here to give me anything I like. So now I'm having borderless communication and transnational corporations like Amazon, Yahoo, Google, MSN, Netflix, and eBay were born out of the dot-com bubble. And all of us know what exactly, there is an entirely different community in the world now, the digital community. We don't think that we have now a digital community and a non-digital population. People who may not be knowing anything. क्या हो रहा है? They have no idea what's happening, what's internet, what's online, what is Google. There is one particular part of the world which doesn't have any idea about it. But another part of the world is in a position to have interconnectedness between the countries, between the people, through what is known as the online. So we are having virtual online communities. So we are, I know I don't know who is that person, but I am in touch with that some person X in my what you call test Twitter account. I put something and the Twitter is going, and somebody in the far corner of Colorado in America likes my comment. Now I'll have to go and see who is this person. Then I click on his icon, his picture. Then I get his picture, his background. his interests, his hobbies, and what he's doing. I'm able to get the information. So please remember that the media per se has completely changed thanks to to these great transnational corporations. I know you know that Amazon has branches in about 180 countries. Yahoo has branches, Google has branches, Amazon, Netflix. They have branches in every conceivable city in the world. Any metropolitan city, they have a brand. Netflix, eBay, they were all born on the dot-com bubble. So sometimes we don't even know who is the owner. There is no owner. For instance, you will take Ola and Uber. There's no owner as such. In this sense, they may have some office somewhere, but everything is going online. We don't know, but the money goes into the respective accounts. Everybody gets the money. Everybody uses the money, and they get their share. And the whole thing is running in a very online situation. So please remember, now we are having many platforms like OTT. Yesterday only I've seen a movie on OTT. So there is a thing on WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram. Signal came as a competitor to WhatsApp because WhatsApp, tried to the other day tried to meddle with the liberty of using our information. So all these things have been taken into consideration, and the borderless. Now, one of the important things that we should know is that we are able to have the borderless, what you call it as the borderless uh, communication, okay, through internet. So we still have now, but at the same time, because it is there, it doesn't mean it's whole world is connected that way. And you all know that every country has its right, or it has its right to ban these platforms. They can wind up the platform. Suppose tomorrow there is an Indo-Pak war, the government of India can ban Facebook, can ban Twitter, can ban WhatsApp. No, nothing doing. We are now having a threat to the security of a country. And in the name of the security of this country, we have the capacity to ban companies from conducting business within the borders. And this also applies to internet based companies. So we don't give permission. Right now, Pakistan is suffering a lot because of the trade ban. It has been pleading with government of India to kindly restore the trade flow. Like if you go to Wagah border in Amritsar, a number of lorries used to go into Pakistan and from Pakistan to Amritsar. So the Wagah border, for instance, is closed. But then what happens is that we have the capacity to ban the companies from conducting business. So we tell our Indian fellows, stop, kuch bhi nahi bechna, kuch bhi nahi khareedna. Now we have the capacity to ban, and same applies to internet-based companies. If somebody is attacking us without any valid evidence, without any proper proof, without any provocation, without any, without anything that makes our enemy to unnecessarily point at us. So this is how we have. For instance, how Netflix and Facebook, have nearly more than 100 crores users, internet users, but they are not welcome or available in China. So no, Netflix people cannot have their movies, or for instance, the Facebook cannot have its presence in China because China being a dictatorial country, China has banned these things because they don't want their people to know what's really happening in the rest of the world. And the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, all these things are not as good in China and Russia as it is in rest of the world. So what are the problems we face to right to communication? Now you know in world we say that everybody should have right to communicate, right to inform, right to speak, right to write, WRIT. So we have all things, but what are the problems that are affecting our right to communication? First of all, we have a right, but we are disrespecting the rights. Now, let us take the example of India itself. Is a democratic country, but sometimes journalists are arrested because they are not towing the line of the government. They are arrested under some flimsy reason, including a very young people also. College students are also being arrested. Take the hijab case, for instance. Now, the right to express is there, but there is a disrespect to that right, depending on the political situation, communal situation, some religious reason, or political opponents. So these are all the things. One of the most biggest barrier to the right to communication is when the government doesn't show respect for the rights. When the government itself disrespects the rights. Whoever be the government, not necessarily Indian government. If I am arrested here now, the other day, uh, you know, some TV channel fellow was arrested. He was put in Chanchalguda jail and then released on bail. That Malana, okay? So this Malana was arrested and then put in jail. Now what has happened? Disrespect for the rights. That's how they say. And then there are also what is known as economic inequalities. Again, the right to communication also happens because there is always a divide on economic levels. There is economic inequalities. We have different uh, types of economic backgrounds. We have the poorest of the poor. We have average middle income people, low income people, middle income people, high income people, economically very rich, economically very sound, economically neither rich nor strong middle class, economically very, very weak. And the right to communication there also is a problem. Okay, you don't know anything, keep quiet, just stay there. How will you feel if you are economically very weak and I deprive you of the right to communicate? No, you don't know anything. Okay, I'll take care of it. I'll give you, don't worry. So you're brushed aside. So that is a big danger. That is a big block for the right to communication. And take, for instance, the social inequalities. Take our own country. You need not go somewhere. Social inequalities. If it is America, there are a lot of social inequalities on the basis of, maybe racism, on the basis of color, class, if not caste. If you take in India, Dalits are really terribly deprived. Why is Raitu Bandhu coming now? Because of setting aside. These social inequalities also is a block for someone to communicate, someone to exercise his or her right to communicate. These are all one of the impediments in a right to communicate. Now we also have language barriers. We all know very well how language barriers also create a lot of problem in your fulfilling the right to communicate. You may not know the language which you know is not known to the receivers. Suppose you are a sender and you know Bengali, but you want to send your right to you want to use your right to communicate with the Telugu audience here, and because you are in Telangana and you are having a language barrier. So your right to communicate is getting affected. So then nobody will come and tell, no, you speak in Bengali, I'll put some Bengali to come and translate it. It may happen in a hospital between a patient and a nurse. A nurse from Kerala may not be able to understand what the patient is saying, but at least somebody will come and translate it. That kind of facility is not there. So please remember the right to communication. Again, language barriers, illiteracy. All of us know illiteracy is the biggest stumbling block, hurdle for right to communicate. So I'm unable to tell anything because I'm not educated. I'm not able to send any message to you or write anything on the wall. I'm not educated and I don't know what you're saying. And even if I say something you are not able to understand because I'm illiterate, because I'm from a different language, I'm different from a different strata in society, social inequality, or in my economic stature, I am not able to really exercise. So there is again a cultural barrier. Okay, there is a cultural barrier. We are seeing the cultural barrier, religious barrier. We are able to see the cultural barrier. And we are still going through the period or era of still, you know, outcasting, ostracizing Dalits. Still, they are not allowed to go to the same crematorium. They're not allowed to pass through the house of certain castes, upper castes. Still, that is still continuing. For instance, impediments to right to communication. In America, it's between the whites and the blacks, okay, and the Hispanics also. So there is always a kind of stumbling block, hurdles for people to exercise their right to communication. This is one important area which you should know uh, as impediments to right to communication. Now, all of us know that we are now having another problem. The problem is that the technology is developing, everything is improving in the private sector, but there is a dominance of large media corporations who are also becoming a threat to freedom of expression. Okay, in addition to the state threats that the government imposes now, there is a threat from the private sector also. Now, you know, the entire media in our country, for instance, is in the hands, electronic media is in the hands of private people, and a good number of them foreign owners because they have invested a lot, FDI, foreign direct investment, large media corporations. What they do is they try to get in touch with the rulers, with the people who are in the top at the government, and they may not, you know, telecast what is perhaps truthful, what is real. They may not telecast that. Somebody protesting somewhere, they may not telecast even if it is truthful why they are protesting. The reasons are valid, the reasons are justified. Somewhere some protest is going on, but that is not being telecast by any of these private channels. And that itself tells us, the threat to freedom of expression. So threat is not only from this government, please remember that. When large media corporations, come together because they have their own business interests, हमें कुछ लेना देना नहीं है अनि काकुंडा, they have their own problem. So this is how the uh, this the freedom to express is getting affected. So there are many always, in addition to these issues that we have discussed so far, that is the impediments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, people, suppose someone doesn't care your rights. Okay, they are there on the paper, Ambedkar National Constitution on the, but I'm not going to allow you to communicate. How will you feel? So which means I'm disrespecting your right to communicate. Okay, I'm not allowing you to speak. You are a very poor fellow. You don't have any eligibility to talk. How will you feel? No, you belong to that lower caste fellow. You don't know anything social. How will you feel? Muslims have no right to speak. You are minority here. Nothing doing. हमारा हिंदूज का मुंह बंद करे तो हम चुप नहीं बैठे क्या? आप भी चुप बैठो. But this is kind of the situation that we have. Muslim population in India is more than the population of Pakistan. Please remember that. Social inequalities, language barriers. We have language barriers. I say I can communicate in Urdu. I say no, Urdu is not our official language. Learn Hindi compulsorily and communicate through Hindi or English. Or if someone says, no, sir, I'm not educated, I'm not able to communicate, then study and come. We will see at that time. How will you feel? So this is what we try to, discuss impediments to right to communication. And we will now see what we mean by the media density. What happens to the media density? That is the presence of media. The presence of audience to that media determines the density of the media there. Media density and freedom of speech and expression. So media density is directly proportional to freedom of speech and expression. Okay, media development involves capacity building for institutions or individuals to make them speak freely, frankly, with pluralism, that is, all are taken into consideration, and diversity of media as well as transparency of media ownership. Whether we are having that, it's a big issue right now. That the media is not really in an impartial hand. The media is in the hands of those who are money hungry, power hungry, political power hungry, and in the process, the the right to express on the part of the people is getting denied. That is one of the things that you should know. Media density is directly proportional to the people who have access to media, the number of people who have access to media, and it is so we can always say that it is directly proportional to that. If we have seen that how it involves, then we can see, for instance, some of the areas. Uh, you know, um, One of the things that we should know is that media plays a role in democracy and effective democratic discourse through supporting free and independent media. So there are now people in India, a separate segment of people are coming up in India now. Media is divided now. Some channels are pro and some channels are anti, as you know very much in Andhra Pradesh. We are seeing Sakshi on one hand, Andhra Jyoti TV5, ETV are on the other hand. They both are opposing. So in between, I want to have an independent media, but I am not being allowed. Every time I am threatened, no, you can't write like that. So sometimes what happens is that some people want to start something independent. For instance, the Wire is one such, media. The Wire, it has an independent journalism, and they don't have any money with them. They don't have any building, any office as such. They're all operating from the respective houses or laptops, or maybe under the tree. ये online का जमाना है. So that is what is through supporting free and independent media. Now there are some agencies, some good thinking people, people who want correct information, independent information, true information. Suppose you are as a journalist, you want to give something true information. You don't have money to set up a channel. You don't have money to start a newspaper. You don't have anything to do unless you have a support from big people. Now you are an independent person, but at the same time you want to do journalism. So what do? You can start, for instance, with the help of the technology. You can start your own, for instance, a podcast. Podcast. Nobody is listening. You can start your podcast. You can start your blog. You can start your vlog, VLOG, for instance. And to help you, there are some people who help support free and independent media. Please click on to Wire, one thing known as the Wire. They are asking, after you read the story, kindly donate. Otherwise, we cannot survive. We are trying to give you the truth. So, truth can be purchased, which means now I feel, oh God, these people are doing such a great work. Let me donate some money. I donate anyhow, some 100 rupees or 200 rupees. Why do I donate it? Because they are doing real service to the people through free and independent media. So that is what we mean by supporting free and independent media. So some of the business houses, corporate houses can support free and independent media without expecting any returns. Suppose you are a good journalist, I'm a very big corporate CEO, and I give you some money. I give you 2 lakhs because you're running an independent media. I don't expect that you should write anything praising me. You can even write anything that you can criticize me also. You have taken money from me, you have taken my support, but you can criticize. That is the kind of a freedom that I'm trying to give you. So that is what is known as supporting free and independent media. If that happens, a true democracy emerges. Right now, what is happening? Always a war. Entire Andhra Pradesh is too busy fighting the political war than building even one small building. There's always a fight between ideologies, between two political ideologies. So that's just an example I'm telling you. It's the same thing when you put the same picture in a global way, from a global perspective, same thing is happening. Same thing is happening. Not in India alone. CNN and Fox News, they're dead opposite to each other. Somebody wants to start something, they need support, they need funding. So we have, for instance, let us take, for instance, some of the lessons from different, from lessons from, say, Gulf War. What are the lessons? The media, the international media. One of the things that we have is that uh, Western Arab relations are possible. That it has proved that. Now all of us know that we had Desert Storm, US and UK. They had mutual relationship with Arab states. So they tried their best to have that, and then they did some operation where it did not really succeed. As a crucial ally, they tried. They also made it. So they've said that one of the lessons from Gulf War is that their intervention actually backfired. It did not achieve the results with which they tried to participate in the war. So please remember, local support being you are a guest. Please remember, unless you don't get a local support, a foreign invader will never, you are only a guest. Today, Russia has occupied Ukraine, and Ukraine is saying all the occupiers will have to go back. No occupier will be allowed inside the country. Not now, maybe after 5 months or 6 months, after 1 year or 2 years, you have to go back. You're only a guest here. You're only a guest because your government, your people have sent you. So please remember, when any international troops arriving in a foreign land, it is very difficult. Suppose we go into Pakistan. Can we stay there permanently? Is it possible? We'll always be having problem on day-to-day basis. We're having problem within the country itself in Kashmir. We are having problem. We are having problem because our borders are not very clear there. In the sense, they are not properly secured. Though we are struggling, we are spending thousands of crores or lakhs of crores to protect our geographical borders. So, if anyone comes inside your country, he has a problem. He should be very familiar with geographical locations, land, and people. I know this is possible because of internet. It's possible to maybe, but what is essential is that there's always suppose I'm a foreigner and I go into another country, and then I don't get the proper treatment there. Then what I'll do, I'll go into self-defense mode. So I'll try to attack the people where I am a guest. How will it be when a guest comes to your house and attacks you? So if you have that kind of an attitude towards local population, you will not be, uh, you know. uh, so there are but instances where great people have gone to other countries. I think if I'm correct somewhere, I read it, where they could achieve, they could mediate so successfully that they became heroes, that they died there in the process. So we have world heroes also who could do that. So please remember, for military should remember that they are all guests in another country, and that to gain proactive effort to build a mutual understanding. So you go and again say you go and attack a country or go into that country, then you want to stay, then you will have to create some mutual understanding and respect. Okay, what you are saying is correct for us also. Instead, no, whatever we are saying, we are right, you get out. You can't go to that country and tell that. You may win the immediate war, a short term success may be there, but long term loss will be there. No long term gain will be there. You have come with thousands of pattern tanks inside Ukraine, you may have a short term success. Putin may send propaganda that he has succeeded. The war is over, we have occupied Ukraine. World, but NATO will be always watching. NATO has sent a special plane where no passenger seats are there. The entire plane is full of monitors, cameras, to see whether to see whether they are putting bombs from planes. They are able to monitor that. So please remember that this is going to be a very different ball game in global communication. So you need to have proactive support from the country you are thinking that you are attacking. Always remember, Putin is now dreaming that there will be a change of regime in Ukraine. He is saying that already this man has left to Poland and some other person who was the vice president of Ukraine will be put there and he will be. Regime change is challenging. Is it easy for a foreigner to come and change? How will you feel if someone from foreigner comes and tries to change? No, no, you should not have Modi, you should have this person. How will you feel? Who are you to tell us? We will decide, we will settle our account. So this is very challenging in any society, international fora also. So it's a long process. If at all someone wants, maybe somewhere, military rule is going on in one of the African countries. People are suffering a lot. America can invade that country, maybe get in touch with that fellow. They change the military ruler. Or they may say, throw away this fellow, have elections and then conduct it and finish it and like that. United Nations sends leaders to convince the country's people to go for elections and not to be slaves under some military rule. So regime change is challenging but not unsuccessful. It is successful as long as the person who is trying to change is a well-wisher of the people and he feels that all should happily live. There should not be any animosity. There should not be any hatred within the people. If that is there, then there is a possibility of transition to a new form of government. And governance is not a small process, it's a long process. And it needs the determination of the people. Yes, we want to change. Suppose in China, people strongly feel that they want to change Xi Jinping. If they feel strongly, then there can be, a regime change, even at the behest of the foreign nationals, foreign people coming into the country, or with playing, because through media also you can try to influence the people. Why is Hong Kong, always, why Hong Kong till recently was in trouble? Now they changed some rules and now China is having a better grip, stronger grip on Hong Kong. It was because of the media that Hong Kong could also, show its protests. The protests were amplified. So is the case in case of Egypt. We had many kinds of movements. We have now a movement called Black Lives Matter in America. Who will be knowing about that movement unless the media is able to show it? So the media is showing it right now. So always remember the regime change in a country which is not yours is not that easy in spite of this media, penetration, media freedom. In spite of that, maybe you can try to influence, but suppose I remove that access. Now Chinese people, suppose I provoke Chinese people, but Xi closes the channel. Nothing doing whatever Nagarjuna is saying and nothing, nobody should be able to know in China. So my information is not going. So as long as this information which can be blocked and that affects the right to communicate, this will continue. So please remember that good days need not be there just because now we have borderless communication. We are having borderless communication, but still we are having lots of problems. That's what we are trying to say. So please remember, unless there is a self-determination, unless there is a change, okay, and cannot be enforced without popular support and commitment. I will not welcome America if I am, if I am suffering. I will not welcome America too. I will welcome America only if really America is able to help me, say for instance, restore democracy. I'll be happy for that. But बाहर वाला ही है. Always an outsider, external actor. Unless I support that external actor, there cannot be any regime change. A good number of countries had regime changes because of the help of developed countries. They were very thankful to them with the regime changes. They helped uh, restore democracy in some of these countries. So it all depends on how things happen in terms of what is called as change of regime at the behest of foreign nations. Now we all know that in case you try to interfere with Middle East, they tried. We all have seen what happened in Iraq war, what's happened in Syria war. So it is not, Middle East society is not homogeneous. It has its own problem. Middle East countries have their own history, they have their own traditions, they have their own languages, dialects, ethnicities, religions, and forms of governance. Dunya cheese, they have got maybe Shia, Sunni, this, that, everything they have got. Therefore, identity is a complex. Okay, and this must be understood before we try to change any society. So we can't go and say in Middle East, you do like this, you do like this, you change your habit, you change this, you change this, let there be free liquor, like in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, why are you not allowing that? Why are you doing like this? Like this, we cannot do. Because Middle East identities are complex. If you take in United Arab Emirates itself, go to Dubai and spend a free life. But go to Saudi Arabia, it's not like that. You have to follow their traditions, their reservations. So you have to take care of that particular things. It's a complex thing. And always remember, when we try to, when the aggressor or when we try to poke our nose into the a country, ex country, America has entered, and the people are very happy. Thank God, now they will come and save us from our own oppressor, our own person who is torturing us. At that time, we are supporting America for a while. But over a period of time, you will find that he seems to be a bigger enemy than their own enemy. That is what Saddam Hussein faced. Saddam Hussein was a dictator. He could do whatever he wanted with the people there. The people were vexed, frustrated, lot of differences, lot of people fought each other. Saddam was enjoying wine, wealth, and women. Then America stepped in. Then they thought it will be, but it boomeranged on them. They accused Saddam of chemical weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. But when investigation took place, nothing of that sort happened. Tony Blair had to apologize. He apologized for attacking Iraq during the Iraq war, for sending his troops. So please remember, in Iraq also what happened, the support remained only for a while. It doesn't support for a long time. Then America had to withdraw. What happened to America in Afghanistan? What happened to Russia in Afghanistan before Americans came? The people there itself, America came to fight Taliban, ultimately handed over the thing to Taliban, notwithstanding the communication that has been taking place, notwithstanding the improvements in communication, and so on and so forth. So please remember, any operation that you conduct in a foreign country, media is a key component of that operation. Now let us take, for instance, the Gulf War. It really fought in 90s. It was the first war to be fought in an era of 24-hour news. In 90s and onward, when internet came and satellite communication improved, when we started having this cable TV or channels came, then 24-hour news channel came, 365 days, 24-hour non-stop. So at that time, journalists had their own portable real-time satellite telephones. They were able to send information without any censorship. The media became a key component of an operation. And that is how it resulted into what is known as journalists. Now, in global communication, we are seeing earlier when communication did not develop to the present day levels, media had a lesser role. But later, as media developed over a period of time, it could also influence, subdue the intensity of war, because right information could help the people to understand rightly at the right time, at the right place. So this kind of a journalism that came later is what is known as embedded journalism. Now this came, and whether it succeeded or not is remains to be seen, though many say that it has failed. They thought that every war should be properly reported, should be covered, and the journalists, the international journalists, tried to convince the military of respective countries that they will also participate in the war along with the soldiers. So what happened was that a new trend of embedded journalism, that is, you put journalists on one side of military wing when a conflict is taking place. So we had Barka Dutt, we have somebody from Republic Channel. They also go along with the military soldiers near the LAC or LOC, and some fight is going on. They also wear bulletproof suits and participate. But when they find, suppose a journalist sees personally, 5 Indian soldiers were killed right in front of him, and he doesn't find anybody on the other side dying. He comes back and says reports, 5 Indian soldiers killed. Then that news doesn't go outside the military. The military people will go through the news before it is sent. This is actually itself an agreement with so the reporters and photographers have to abide by what the military says, because uh, it will uh, it will destroy the strategy of war. That information leaked out may destroy. So this is something which has happened later. Then they said the freedom of conveying news as it is took a beating, because I'm sure you will agree that as military, they cannot agree, don't send right now. 5 people killed, nil killed there, 5 killed here may demoralize the troops. अपन के लोग बहुत मर रहे हैं. So they should not demoralize. The information is blocked. Why Russia gave the information after so many days, after 1 week? What has happened on the first day itself? The other soldiers will revolt. We won't go, sir. They seem to be more stronger. Same with the opponent country. So embedded journalism came with a good intention so that they are able to really report what exactly happens during a war. They go along with them and try their best to see how actually a war takes place, and they want to inform the people, and so that the people also understand. Instead of jumping to conclusions, nothing happened, our log अपन के लोग कुछ भी नहीं करे. We are now accusing the government, saying that the surgical strike never took place. They have provided evidence. So they are saying that is not the evidence. So there is a possibility of media trying to do good things, but media also not being allowed to do the same. So war coverage, embedded journalism, it was a new form of how to cover the war. So sometimes what happens, sometimes if you show this internally also, look of how we could torture our enemy. It may look heroic for you, but our own public will also not support that because they feel it's inhuman. They should not have troubled an innocent Pakistani like that. What will you feel? Suppose the media says that they did a splendid job by attacking the enemy and bringing his body here. Our own public may not support it. This is the drawback of embedded journalism. So that's why in embedded journalism, the military takes an undertaking from the journalist that he will not reveal any sensitive information, that he will reveal sensitive information only if it is approved by the concerned military authority or military people with whom he is accompanying. If the information is not harmful for the security of the nation, the military will not tell anything to him. Yes, sir, yeah, base dijiye. But if it is going to demoralize or having a psychological impact on the internal side, then they may say, no, don't do it now. Maybe you can do it later. Let the war end, then you can give the truth. So most of the true stories of the war come later, maybe after 6 months, maybe after 1 year. The evidence will be shown. Somebody may write a book also. Some army general may write a book of how he had to crawl with one leg already cut off. With one leg, he had to crawl. So you can imagine the intensity. If that is conveyed now, it may demoralize. After the war, when things settle down, maybe someone writes a book. We can allow that to happen. We have seen so many writers from military, you know, sharing their experiences in a war situation. And that helps people to also know or empathize with our own soldiers who are protecting our country, for instance. So embedded journalism has many advantages, but demerits also. And always remember, when US troops were there, they were, when they came there, many people accompanied them, they tried, but then they viewed it negatively. And they said, what is the use? There's a bias in reporting. You're not telling the truth. You have surrendered to military, whatever they are saying. In America, they're more particular about truth. So they are very particular about, negative things are not being reported. So this is another area where that could have an impact. So many people also said that embedded they allowed US people allowed embedded journalists mainly to cover their side of the story, their sympathy more for their side, rather than actually reporting the truth either from their side or from the opponent. Okay, or maybe into the culture of the military and tainting the objectivity that journalists are bound to uphold. So there is a possibility of that culture of the military. So they also become, these reporters who are accompanying, they also become like soldiers. Psychologically, they get absorbed into that. Their reporting also, becomes one-sided, as if supporting only the military. Then what the people in America will think? These journalists are nothing but chamchas of the military, chamchas of the government. They are giving only one side of the story. They are not giving from the Iraq side of the story. They are not truly telling. They are not truly telling that one Iraq soldier killed 3 US soldiers. They are only telling about US fellow killing 10 Iraqi soldiers. But if these embedded journalists are not able to convey, like any other journalist, the truth reporting, then what is the very purpose of embedded journalists? So nowadays, that is something which is, they call it as tongue in the cheek. जो भी embedded journalist बोलेगा वो it's only to suit that particular country. We are also sending reporters to Ukraine. We don't know what Ukraine government is telling them, how they give permission, and what they should tell. They may say live, aisa karo, aisa karo. They may follow. Now every channel is coming up with saying that we are the first channel in Ukraine reporting live, reporting ground situation. It may be true, but what they report is something which you should watch to know whether it is reported fairly, in a balanced manner, whether it's being reported, in such a way the truth emerges out of that. I don't think so. In a war-like situation, it's impossible. So the objectivity with which the embedded journalism came, unfortunately, could not be realized to the extent with which it was aimed at. This is the main thing. But one important thing you should know is that a person who goes along with the military is well protected because he is wearing bulletproof, and in the event of danger, the military people will save him. But there are many non-embedded journalists. Maybe I don't know if these people are non-embedded journalists because we're representing our channels, whether they're going with risk. The Dutch people whoever go with, no, we don't want to go with the military fellow. We want to go on our own so that we report exactly what's happening. There are some journalists who are ready to take that risk, who are ready to die for truth, because that is the passion of journalism. Okay, for the sake of truth, I will take risk. I will walk 50 kilometers. I will go and report what is happening on my own. If I am shot, I will take that risk. So I am a non-embedded journalist. There are many people, in fact, non-embedded journalists during Iraq war. Embedded journalists were going. People were not really supporting that. They want the story they are saying is one-sided. पूरा कहावत है, कुछ भी सच नहीं है इसमें. So some journalists from America went as non-embedded journalists. They took the risk and they were killed during the Iraq war. Either like an assassination, all of you know that Egypt, Khashoggi, how he was assassinated in an embassy. Embassy is supposed to be the most protected place. So how it was targeted. So in other words, he was a non-embedded journalist. Embedded journalist has some protection because he's going with the military, he's going with the government permission, he's going in a particular procedure, in a particular manner, following a rule. Non-embedded journalist is going in a manner where he wants free information, information, correct data, and he wants to photograph the truth, but he is going with a risk, heavy risk on his body. He may be attacked in a war, or he may be somebody may assassinate him for telling the truth. So please remember the risks involved. Okay, in fact, uh, in case of 2000, a pair of independent journalists, working with the Reuters, they were killed by U.S. forces because the pilot of a helicopter mistook their camera for a rocket-propelled launcher. So he kept the camera with the zoom lens and everything. He thought it is a rocket launcher, and he threw a bomb on them, grenade, and they died on the spot. They were ripped apart into pieces. So video footage of this attack was published. Some people then, how can you do like that? How can you be so careless? How can you mistake a camera lens to be a rocket launcher and kill the innocent journalists? Now here they're not innocent journalists. They're independent journalists. They knew the risk involved in that. They knew that somebody may drop a bomb. They knew that. But at the same time, these people also knowingly nobody should do. But that's what is happening. In Ukraine, Russia is knowingly attacking schools, child care hospitals. It is attacking innocents, old people. The other day, one patent tank went and sat over a car. Luckily, she came out alive. Nothing happened to her. Car was flattened, but she came out in a very freaky manner. In a very freaky accident, she came out. So this is the whole essence of what we tried to discuss today. So a quick recap we can do is that what we tried to do in this is that how international communication can be influenced, opposed, supported with the different political ideologies of different countries. Everything is linked to the way you want to convey your information. You want to give your side of the story. You want to intensify that. When you intensify that, it becomes propaganda. When you spread it to all the countries, it becomes propaganda. And propaganda war is different from the physical war. Earlier days, it was known as propaganda, one-sided information. What I am saying is Vedam. What I am saying is Bible. Jo mai bola wahi Quran hai. Propaganda. So that's how we studied. We discussed a lot on how Nazism, how British people, influenced the propaganda, how they went about, how the Cold War took place. I will give you what we mean by cold, why we call it as Cold War. There is a reason for you to why it's called cold. Because it's something unseen. It's unseen. Okay. Why it's called cold? That's very, very essential for us. It's just because there was no large scale fighting directly between two sides. Cold. No heat generated. Only Cold War. Often they say there is a Cold War going on between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. That is, they look to the outer world. Perfect relationship. सास हो तो ऐसा, बहू हो तो ऐसा. but there is always a Cold War. So Eastern Bloc, it should be like Russia. The world should be like Russia. The world should be like America. But the world is also witnessing what is known as the Cold War that takes place, and that we discussed. We also discussed what is known as media politicization, how propaganda techniques are followed. We also have seen how media can be blocked, media can be censored, as we see in Russia and other such countries. And we have seen what we mean by borderless communication and nation state censorship. We have seen borderless communication thanks to internet. It is more and more. We have got like doctors without borders. You should know in journalism, we have got journalists among journalists, reporters without borders. So I can operate from anywhere and still start reporting thanks to my technology. And to enable that to happen, many transnational corporations have played a key role, like Amazon, eBay, Yahoo, Google, whether it is in communication, whether it is in commerce, whether it is in spreading ideology. All these things we try to discuss. We also try to discuss what are the problems that we have to exercise the right to communicate. We have seen that also about six factors that govern. We also have seen that media density matters a lot to increase the freedom of expression and speech. We have seen that many lessons were learned from Gulf War and how risky it is to attack some countries and then come back disappointed. America has done that a couple of times, more than that, either in maybe in Middle East, and we have seen recently in Afghanistan. They have attributed that to the total failure of America as far as Afghanistan was concerned. They targeted Taliban and ultimately they handed over the rule to Talibans, making a joke, a big international joke of the year 2021. We have seen what is embedded journalism, the advantages of embedded journalism, disadvantages. What happens if the journalists go on their own without getting embedded with the military? They face the risk of being killed. And last but not the least, media organizations who tried to accompany US, they later realized that it really did not yield the result for which they went. But at the same time, we have also mentioned in our course material about the people who did not go as embedded journalists but as independent journalists, how they had to face the risk. So this is what we discussed today in our unit 10 of block 4. We will go for block 5, the next class. Next Saturday, I am not taking class. I must inform you. Next Sunday, I will be taking my online class. Saturday, I have an international conference in Hyderabad where I am playing a key role. It belongs to my area of specialization, printing technology. So I will not be taking class on next Saturday. Next Sunday, I will be taking class as usual. We'll meet online next Tuesday. So that's it for the day today. Thanks a lot. Anjay Saab, Mahesh Babu is there. And somebody is there, Swero Medchel. Yeah.
Sir, okay,
Ajay
thank
is
you,
there.
sir. Sir, thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Ajay. Thank you, Mahesh Babu. Thank you, Anjaya.
Sir, thank
Okay, thank you very much. Right, right. It's time to close. I know.